Hi artists, we've been talking about color and value for the last couple of weeks. So for our last project this week, we are going to be creating a color wheel that includes all of the colors in the color wheel, primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. And this is a finished product, but we're going to make ours a little bit more creative than this. So we have red, red-orange, orange, yellow-orange, yellow, yellow-green, green, blue-green, blue, blue-violet, violet, and red-violet. Okay? So we need to have at least 12 spaces in our picture. So if I wanted to, I could draw a picture, say, of a flower. Now, you can really draw anything you want for this. You can draw ice creams, you can draw hot air balloons, you can draw animals, soccer balls. You can really do anything that you want for this. So I'm going to start about here with the center, and now I'm going to go ahead and make 12 petals. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? So now I have my 12 sections. Now what you want to do is you want to start with yellow and work your way back towards the red. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a puddle of yellow paint. Now you could do this with watercolors, except it's much harder to get those colors to mix together well. You could also do this with crayon or colored pencil if you have that at home. It won't work with marker, but crayon or colored pencil will also work. It's just not going to be as bright as it would be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little puddle of my yellow. I'm going to paint one section of my flower, just yellow. And I can really start that wherever I wanted to. Next, I'm going to add just a little bit of red to my whole puddle of yellow so that I get a pretty yellow-orange color. Mix it up really well. If you have a palette at home, you can use that, but you can see I'm just using a paper plate. That works just as well. And I'm going to paint that next to my yellow. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more red paint to that yellow-orange that we just made. So we should be getting a nice kind of regular orange color. Okay, so I need to make sure that you're mixing the whole thing together. I'm going to paint my next section. Now they're not all going to be exactly the same, and that's okay. As long as you're going from yellow to red, we're good. And then guess what? We're going to put a little bit more red in there. And now you should get a nice red-orange color. I'm mixing that whole puddle up, and you could tell when I put it on my paper, you could really tell the difference. Oops. Now for this next one, what you want to do is you can really just wipe your brush off with a paper towel at this point. You don't need to put it in the water. If you rinse your brush in water, that's fine, but then make sure that you dry it off really well. And you want to squeeze your brush so you don't ruin your brush. I just wiped my paint off, and now I'm just going to go right in that red. So I'm going to paint one, just a plain red color. So if you were using crayon or colored pencil, you'd kind of start the same way. You would do yellow, and then maybe paint the other one yellow, add a little bit of red on top of it. Color this one yellow, paint, color more red on top of it, and more red, and then finally just the plain red. Okay? So that takes care of yellow to red. Now I do need to rinse my brush off well, but again, I want to make sure that it's nice and dry. So I'm going to start with the yellow again. So I'm going to have another puddle of yellow, kind of squishing it away there. And we're going to start by adding a teeny bit of blue. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we talked about mixing colors way back in first grade, if you were with me, whenever you have a light and dark color and you're mixing them together, you have a lot of the light color and just a little bit of the dark color. So that's why we're just adding a teeny bit of the blue. And you could see that this is kind of like a nice lime color. So once I make that, I paint my next section. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to that yellow green that we just made. And this should be more of a true green color. It's not going to look exactly green, but that's quite all right, as long as it's a little bit darker. I could have maybe added a little bit more blue, but I like the color. Guess what? I'm going to add a little bit more blue. Now this one should look more like a teal or turquoise color. It should be a blue-green. So I'm making sure that I'm mixing that together well. Paint my next section. And then again, you can just wipe your brush off or rinse it, either way you want to do that, and paint that next section just blue. Now we talked about colors that were light and dark together. We didn't talk about ones that are very similar, like red and blue. So again, now I need to rinse my brush really well, dry it really well. Mixing my red and blue together. Those are much similar. The red is lighter, so we're going to start with a pile of red, or a puddle of red, so we're going to work our way from the red to the blue this time. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that red, and I should have a nice red-violet color. Try to push this over so you guys can see it. I'm going to paint that next puddle. Almost looks like a plum color. Again, add more blue to that red-violet that you just made, and we should get more of a regular violet color, or a purple. And then our last color is going to be blue-violet, so we'll add more blue to that violet that we just made, so it'll be a blue-violet. And this one you may need to add a little bit more blue than we did before, because now it's getting darker and darker as we're adding that blue color to it. Okay, so now I have my 12 sections all colored in. I've created all of the colors of the color wheel, different values. We have light greens, dark greens, light red, dark reds. Okay. Now the rest of your painting, you can go ahead and either use whatever extra paint you have left over to finish painting those in, or you can just color it in. That's fine too. If you are using your crayons or colored pencils, like I said, colors aren't going to be as vibrant, but you should still be able to get some color mixing with that. If you're using watercolor paints, then what you should be doing is really having another, maybe you can use a plastic plate, because if you use a paper plate to mix on, they'll probably dry up very quickly because the paper plate will absorb that water. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow in that to give it a little bit of 3-dimension to it. And I'm all set. So here's my whole flower that I finished up. Now remember, you can draw whatever you want as long as it has 12 sections. I'll also add another sheet that will help you when you're mixing those colors together. This should take quite a while to do, so this will be the only assignment that I'm posting for this week, in addition to maybe a free choice project at the end of the week. All right, I hope you have a good time.